queremos que hechos de esta naturaleza vuelvan a repetirse. Creemos en realidad que para que exista paz en Guatemala debe existir previamente justicia.
The Ríos Montt trial and the sentencing was the first case of its kind. It was the first time that a former head of state was pursued for genocide and crimes against humanity, indicted for these crimes in a national court rather than an international tribunal. The trial itself was the product of a very long and arduous struggle on the part of survivors of the massacres, and it sought to establish responsibility for such crimes at the highest level of the state. And so in a sense, the trial held the promise of ending impunity in the country.
No queremos que hechos de esta naturaleza vuelvan a repetirse. Creemos en realidad que para que exista paz en Guatemala debe existir previamente justicia. We do not want events of this character to happen ever again. We actually believe that peace could only exist in Guatemala if it is preceded by justice.
1 year ago, Ríos Montt was put on trial for crimes of genocide and crimes against humanity. This trial is inextricably linked to a larger struggle for justice, memory, peace, and an end to impunity in Guatemala. The violence that exists today in Guatemala is inextricably linked to the violence of the war that lasted for 36 years, particularly in relation to violence against women and modern-day femicide. This trial was one of the first opportunities that officially, in a national court, women who were victimized by violence, sexual violence, and forms of sexual slavery were given an opportunity to break the silence around their experiences. Their voices were elevated to a national and international stage. This was an absolutely crucial moment historically for Guatemala. Not only because to this day not a single perpetrator of sexual violence during the armed conflict has been brought to justice, but because today, in a post-war context in Guatemala, rates of violence against women in the form of femicide, or the raping, torture, and killing of women, are reaching the proportions normally only seen in contexts of war.
Now, as Marta Casado-Zarzú has argued, though, the trial is not just the indictment of one individual. The importance of the trial was to establish the historical and structural racism that shaped a racist state and a racist discourse that was developed by the military, political and economic elites in the 1980s. And indeed that then translated into the structural assault against Ixil Maya populations in the Ixil region.
Why was breaking the silence for these women so important, and why was rupturing some of this concrete structural impunity in Guatemala in terms of violence against women so crucial? Because today's femicide in Guatemala predominantly affects women who are marginalized on account of their race, class, and gender. What this means is that indigenous women, both in the rural and urban sectors of Guatemala, are victimized on account of their race, class, and gender. They are the women whose access to justice is equally precarious. This was a crucial opportunity for them to break that cycle and to be heard on a national and international stage. The conviction of Ríos Montt for crimes of genocide and crimes against humanity was a small but important rupture to the culture of impunity that pervades Guatemala and the normalization of violence in general and violence against indigenous women in particular.
En nombre del pueblo de la República de Guatemala, este tribunal dicta sentencia en el proceso que se sigue a José Mauricio Rodríguez Sánchez y José Efraín Ríos Montt por los delitos de 1. Genocidio y 2. Delitos contra los deberes de la humanidad en concurso real.
La acusación está a cargo del Ministerio Público, quien actúa a través del agente fiscal Orlando Salvador López, de la querellante adhesiva Asociación para la Justicia y Reconciliación, a través de su representante legal Benjamín Manuel Jerónimo.
La sentencia es importante porque para que exista paz en Guatemala debe existir previamente justicia.